God has way more for you than just eternity when you're dead. He offers you a life of significance right now. I love the eternity. Don't get me wrong. Like, hang on to that. That's what, by the way, allows you to live with significance today, because we're in a pivotal time. In the quest for significance, we're living in one of the most significant time periods of all time. And maybe, I don't know, maybe every generation is like, I don't know, narcissistic and prideful. Like, we're the generation where everything changed. So maybe there's some of that. But like, just look at how the world's changed. Like, I think it's crazy to think about with the rise of AI this year, like, what's life gonna be like in 5 or 10 years, let alone 1,000 or 2,000 years? But I think you can look back, there are certain segments of years or time periods when there was major disruption, and how can we not be living in one right now, in and before and around 2000 with the rise of computers and the internet and smartphones and AI? Like, everything is changing around us. But I've noticed in history that the times where there's been great human advancement, that's the times where people then, in all of the new things and all the blessings and comforts that come from those new things, they actually start advancing and try to do it without God. And so we have to be careful. Anytime the people of God try to move forward without the God of the people, they always end up going backward. And it has devastating consequences. We see this in the Bible. You see this in Genesis with the Tower of Babel. This group rises and things are escalating. Advancement is coming. And they get together and say, let's build a tower to reach the heavens. There's nothing wrong with building a big tower. But they were doing it for their own personal ambition. Here's what the verse says. Then they said, come, let us ourselves build a city with a tower that reaches to the heavens so that, look, we may make a name for ourselves. Personal ambition led to their demise and they were scattered. We would then see this time and time again in the people of Israel after God had rescued them out of Egypt from 4 centuries of slavery and oppression, and over miracle after miracle after miracle brought them into freedom, and then given them a great time period of blessing and comfort and advancement. They got to a place where they wanted to advance without God. And I really believe it is the cardinal sin in all of the Old Testament what happens in 1 Samuel chapter 8. In 1 Samuel chapter 8, Samuel is the one leading them and is God's prophet, and he tells them that hey, if you want things to continue to go well for you, you will continue to be in relationship with the God of the universe, and God will see to it that it goes well. And if you choose to reject him, then it will not go well for you, and things will end poorly. And after presenting all of this, here's what happened. 1 Samuel 8, verse 19, the people refused to listen to Samuel. If you want to be significant, if you want to stand out, if you want to be the people of God that take the message to the rest of the world, God still has that for you. They refused to listen. And instead they said, no, we want a king over us. This may be the saddest line in all the Old Testament. Then we will be like all the other nations, with a king to lead us and to go out before us and fight our battles. Then we'll be like everybody else. God called them to stand out, and he gave them everything they needed to do that. And in the end, they said, all we want to do is fit in. And it would be their demise. Not only would Israel split up into 2 kingdoms and they would fight with and among each other, but then their common enemy rival, the Babylonians, would overtake them into exile. Then we will be like all the other nations. And they were. And I really believe, again, we're in a pivotal time. All this innovation and tech disruption, and with all of it, like, it's bringing about a new way of life that all of us are trying to figure out how to manage and steward this well. And it's really difficult and really confusing. But in the early results it's not actually doing great things mentally on the inside for us. You can look at all the charts, and we've looked at those before, of how anxiety and depression and burnout and exhaustion and disconnection are all happening at levels that they've never been at before. You can look at how people are now chasing entertainment far more than getting into their spiritual disciplines. And then it has an effect, because you look at any faith metric you want in our nation, and you can see it's in rapid decline right now. And so, yes, we're in a pivotal time in our nation. And I wish I could just say, those Tower of Babel people, they're awful. The Israelites, man, aren't they stupid? And the rest of this nation, they don't get it. Omaha, we get it, right? But we don't. This week, finally, after a couple of years, the research project that Within Reach and Barna has been working on is getting unveiled on Thursday here at King of Kings to the city. And there's some staggering things that come from that study. And I'm really excited. We've never had as much objective data to form what's going on in our city than this week, what will be unveiled. And one of those things I've said before, a blessing, 67% of Omahans believe in God. 2 out of every 3, 4 out of every 6. But only 16%, 1 out of every 6, are labeled as a practicing Christian, which Barna, by the way, doesn't set a really high bar. It means you attend church once a month, you say faith is really important, and you believe Jesus died and rose, and that's the bar. 2 out of 6 don't believe Jesus. 1 out of 6 believes and is at least somewhat following. 3 out of 6 somehow are known as unpracticing Christians, as if that's a thing. And I came to tell the 1 out of 6, keep going. Step in even more. And I came to tell the 3 out of 6, God has way more for you than just eternity when you're dead. He offers you a life of significance right now. I love the eternity when I'm dead part of it. Don't get me wrong. Like, hang on to that. That's what, by the way, allows you to live with significance today. Because we're in a pivotal time. And maybe you're in a pivotal time, I don't know, in your family, in your marriage, with your kids. And again, I wish I could just say, those people at Babel, how stupid are they? Dumb Israelites, over and over and over. What more did you need? I wish I could just say, man, those other heathen Omahans, like, they're terrible. But the reality is, every single one of us, even the 1 out of 6 that's practicing, every single one of us, we have turned our backs against God. We have rejected God. We have chosen our own personal ambition over godly ambition. We have lived more for our own name than his name. And we aren't always the good person in the stories that we read. You know what we are? Sinners in need of God's grace. And the book of Romans says that the wages of all of our turning back, of living more for our own personal than godly ambition, the wages of our sin, of how we miss the mark, is death. Yet in the midst of this sin, in the midst of death, which is our consequence that we deserve, we have this beautiful gem of a verse from Romans 5:8 that says, but God demonstrated his love for us in this, while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. How amazing. Like, have you thought about that? That he didn't wait for you to clean up your act and then come? That he came into your mess to clean you up. It'd be one thing to serve somebody that loved me, that thought well of me, that helped me. Like, it'd be one thing, it'd be doable to serve them, but to serve somebody that wants nothing to do with me, that's rejected me, that has lived for their own and lived against me, God came down for you in that moment. And with Israel, like, it wasn't like he gave them the law and then said, I'll come for you when you get this right. He came for them and then he gave them the law and said, this is how you ought to live. It's not conditional. It's not I'm coming for you and now you got to do this, this, and this in order to get what I want to give you. No, it's I'm coming down into your mess, serving you, loving you, saving you. When you were at your worst, Christ came into your life. And it's the only reason we can live a life of significance is because God served you, God loved you, and God saved you. You don't have to settle for mediocrity. God didn't design you to just fit in. In all the human advancement, believe it or not, God very much wants to keep walking with you. You may not get to read about your obituary in a newspaper. I don't even know if newspapers are going to exist very much longer, by the way. You may not see how your life gets played out. But all of us today can ask the question, up to this point, how will you be remembered? C.S. Lewis once said, you can't go back and change the beginning, but you can start where you are and change the ending.